was a special ed teacher, and sometimes we have to read a test to the students, and so I had trouble keeping my place on the page of like, yeah. And so the first few times I thought it was just kind of weird, but I noticed that I'm throwing the kids off because they're listening to me and I'm losing my place on the page. So I just grabbed a ruler and I would just read along with that. And then the same issue with taking attendance, like the names may be on one side of the page and you have to follow your way over to mark present or absent. And I kept marking the wrong students absent. And, you know, that was, very time consuming trying to keep my place on the page. And so, but didn't think a whole lot of it still. But then I started having trouble calculating tips. And math was always my strong point. And so that just did not make sense how all of a sudden I'm having trouble calculating tips. And a year or two prior, I went to the community college. I took pre-cal. I made the highest grade in the class. And now I'm struggling with calculating tips. Um, I love to cook. And so burning food. If I'm in this kitchen cooking and somebody rings the doorbell, that was it. So I had started setting timers, trouble multitasking. I had all these sticky notes on my desk at work of, because I kept having trouble remembering things. And with my mother having frontotemporal dementia, I was concerned that, I might be getting it as well. And so I was already seeing a neurologist for my I had migraines. So I was seeing the neurologist for migraines. And so I was sharing my symptoms with him and he assured me he didn't think that's what was going on with me. And he just, I felt like I was brushed off because of my age. I think it's because of my age. It may not be, but I do think it was because of my age. And so, every time I would go for my headaches, I would share different symptoms. And it may have taken a year or so before he finally sent me to a memory center to be tested. And then that's when they came up with the MCI with moderate memory loss diagnosis. And, I'm sure they sent him a report. And the next couple of visits, he didn't say anything. And so finally, I brought it up to him. And he just kind of shrugged, like, no big deal. And so I really didn't think it was a big deal. But, when I started doing more research on it, I realized, well, wait a minute. This is something that, could possibly progress to dementia. Um, and so over the next couple of years, things would worsen. And so, and I was telling him, and I just kept sharing it every time I would go. But then another issue was parking in tight spaces. If it's like this kind of parking where I just drive right in, it's easy. But when it's perpendicular and I actually have to get in, two lines like that, it was a challenge getting in. And I've been driving for many years. And so one day I pulled up out at work and I was, backing in, kept trying to get in this little spot. And eventually I got in and another lady, she and I were talking about it, she was talking about her troubles with parking as well. But this lady was like in her 70s, 80s. And so, I thought about it later. I was like, well, this is just not an age appropriate, issue for me to be having at this point in my life. And so I was like, I got to get back to the doctor. So I was telling him again, and he did send me for an MRI, and the MRI was normal. And that doctor told me that he said in his 40 years of being a neurologist, he's only seen one true case of dementia for a younger person. So once again, what I felt like was ageism, um, because I do realize that if it's early in the disease,